What's up guys, it's Winter Collinns here, and yes, I have finished Modern Warfare 3, and if you saw my last episode that I just recently posted, yeah. Anyway, so I have a few things that I want to talk about. This is basically COD talk at this point. So I have a few things that I wanted to basically talk about. The talking points for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. This is basically my pure and honest review. There will be spoilers, so I'm here to warn you. If you don't want to hear anything about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 in 2023, the one that just came out, the pre-release from November 2nd, for the campaign, I will be basically gonna be talking about the whole damn thing. So there's gonna be spoilers. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, don't watch this video. So you have been warned. Now that the people that haven't played the game are gone, and only the cool people that pre-ordered the game and got to play it on November 2nd are here, let's continue. So I'm going to be basically reading off of this little thing that I have right here. Today I'll be talking about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the value of the content, the performance, what went good and bad for the game, what could have been done to maybe make the game a little better, and you know, it's pretty damn good, besides what we already all know. So let's hopefully look through some things that keep the fans and content creators in mind. So this is basically my view, a consumer's view, and a game design master's graduate's view of Call of Duty, and things that I feel and things that I have opinions on from my years of experience in playing games and how they made me feel as a consumer, as the people and the person that is purchasing these things. So as for the content value, we'll start with that. For what was played, all of the levels, all of the stuff that it had in it, what was delivered as a pre-order was worth its cost. I personally think that it was pretty good, and the game was more driven on narrative than normal Call of Duty games. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't really pay attention to the story back then when I was a kid, because I only knew point and shoot and then pretty game. And that's really all my mind was thinking when I was a kid playing these Call of Duty games. Now I have more of a developed mind, obviously, and I can understand the storylines and everything. So I felt like this one was a lot more narrative driven than normal Call of Duty games. I don't know why I keep trying to say convention. That doesn't make any sense. Which it's not bad at all. It was a bit more story driven to explain what's going on, and it's not uncommon in games. I mean, a lot of games do that. Like The Last of Us, those games are very story-driven games and narrative-driven games, and it's still a pretty damn good game. So we'll touch base on a few more things with that in a minute. The story was a bit hectic, though, and hard to follow. This is all based on the value of the content being delivered. It also had moments where narrative and gameplay were blurred and confusing because of pretty much the back and forth from English to other languages, way more than the last game was, as we had, you know, Alejandro and, you know, Farah, stuff like that, which is super cool and interesting to hear different native tongues through the games, especially characters like Alejandro and Makarov, and you know, all the different countries and nationalities at play here. It's cool to hear that hear the diverse languages, but it could have been a little bit tweaked. I'll talk about that later. That it could have been a little tiny bit tweaked for timing in voice lines, so people that were reading the subtitles could keep up. Moving on though. The graphics and the lighting, the scenes, both cutscenes and live, were beautiful and ran pretty well on a stock computer with just an upgraded video card. This computer is fully stocked, it has no added fans or anything, and it was running a little warm. Like, it's still running a little warm right now, but that's just how computers are. They run, they get warm. I'm pretty sure that's a GeForce RTX 4060, and I went from baseline graphic card up to the 4060, so the change was worth it to me. And the game ran pretty decently on just the upgraded video card, so that was good that was the case there. The way that the game worked with open battle areas was interesting, and an interesting change to the gameplay. It had its ups and downs though. It was almost impossible for me to go stealth. Nearly 95% of the missions were just run and gun because I couldn't, you know, keep it up. But I feel like the enemies were very sensitive, and that there was some odd things going on with like how the patrols were. Maybe they could have been a little bit tweaked, because even with silenced weapons and the AI patterns of them walking around, it was a little unpredictable sometimes, and sometimes they'd bug out a little bit. So it was a little annoying to have that kind of experience with the game because you were literally running gunning the whole time. And I did catch a few times where some of the lines had something to do with the story while you're being overrun by these waves of enemies, and it was hard to stick around and, you know, not have a constant wave of enemies you're killing, because you're trying to kill them and listen to whatever the character is being told. But we'll probably talk about that in a little while. So the usage of enemy waves is interesting and good for someone who enjoys that kind of gameplay, but the game seemed to lean on this mechanic a lot and could have been improved with a little bit of a mix-up between guided path missions, which there were some, and open range missions, which were those open battle missions. I feel like I did open battle missions a lot more than what was given. I think they sort of like took that those co-op things like you have in Modern Warfare 2, I think it is. You had like this little mission that you go on with these people, do raids and stuff, and they used that kind of system gameplay for the open battle levels, which is interesting. I'll give them that. It was a cool and different way to portray Call of Duty in the campaign, to give the player that free reign of the character and the pathway that they take, be it stealthily or not. Even though you try to do stealth, though, sometimes it just doesn't work, and 80% of the time I kept getting caught, even though I killed someone with a silenced weapon and the person next to them got shot like 2 seconds after they saw them, as if they like were able to call off some kind of alarm. which, I mean, it's not impossible because they're people in the army, they have radios. People in the military and stuff have radios. So it could have radioed the distress thing in that 1 second that they were alive. But still, it was a little tiny bit off. So that could have been tweaked a little bit. Overall, I enjoyed a lot of the missions. The difficulty seemed a little condescending though. I had regular on, and it felt like it was more hardened mode because I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 one, and that was the last Modern Warfare game that I played since this one, and I played hardened mode first on my laptop. So it was a little odd that it felt like hardened mode in regular, especially because, you know, it's regular. So it felt like hardened mode at some points. Maybe I was just pushing up too far. You know, I'll probably talk about that in a little bit. I don't remember everything I wrote. Anyway, so I feel like there was an imbalance in the difficulty at some points, especially when dealing with waves of enemies, which was very common to deal with in the missions that were open range. Moving on to performance value. So this is basically talking about running a game that is heavily reliant on running the graphics on decent settings. I had the graphics, I think, pretty high. They must have been at least on high or very high, because, sorry about the clearing in my throat. I'm still getting over my sickness a tiny bit. So, having pretty much a basic stock computer, it ran well, just with the upgraded graphics card. The game is heavy on your computer, though, and the more upgraded your computer is, the better it will run the game, cutscenes, and record. I was recording and running the game on this computer 2 times the thing, so it was a little bumpy at random spots, and it did lag once in a while, but it ran way better than I was expecting it to, so that was really good on the performance value of the game and how it ran. When I was recording and playing on this computer, I was doing both at the same time, and not using separate things like my laptop and my PC. I could be running the game on the PC and recording on the laptop. I wasn't doing that. Everything was set on the computer, recording and playing. So I had less of a performance boost than I probably could have had. Some scenes were a little bit choppy, and that was because it could have been because of the early access. And then there were a few bugs, like the audio bug during that cutscene with Nikolai and Laswell. The audio disappeared. I think there was at least like 2 things. There was like one cutscene that it was talking about like the maps or whatever with like all the pictures and everything, and I heard overlapping audios. I'm assuming that was just a bug there. And then we have that audio bug with Nikolai and Laswell when they were setting up the helicopter in one of the last episodes I did. It was like in the middle of the game, I think. But other than that, everything seemed well put together for what it was. So, performance, again, difficulty seemed a little off, something that could have been tweaked, or may need to be tweaked now, because it did affect the ability to move the game along, because I kept dying so easily. And I mean, I was pushing a little bit because I was trying to get it done. The AI wasn't programmed. Oh, sorry. I was pushing like the A-gram. What the fuck is wrong with my brain? So, anyway, what I meant was, I was pushing up as if it was my, multiplayer, and I wasn't being targeted by the AI that was programmed to target me. So, it was probably a little bit my fault, but it could still use a tiny bit of an adjustment. Being regular, I shouldn't be dying in like 2 shots. Anyway, as for the performance of the AI itself, we have seen a lot of differences in AIs nowadays. AI has come a very far way. And it's very interesting to see everything programmed work so interestingly, like, well, sort of. Just with minor tweaks here and there that could be, you know, upgraded in the future. So the AI enemies itself worked very well. There were times that it did get a bit hectic though, and that some of the AI bugged out, and sometimes we're just completely standing still or phasing through things, such as that first Juggernaut. I think we were Price, I'm pretty sure, and we were fighting this Juggernaut that was walking through a truck, like a pickup truck that was the only source of cover from its heavy fire. So you had to like take it out super fast because there was no way to like stay away from it, and if you didn't take it out real fast, that would have ended up catching you off guard, and you wouldn't have been able to get past that part and make the game continue. So other minor bugs, nothing game-breaking happened, and nothing dropped the performance into the gutter, so overall performance of the game itself ran pretty well, and with the little amount of upgrades that my computer has, the PC was running pretty top-notch, especially for doing the recording and running the game at the same time, but on a different drive. So it was recording to one drive while the game was playing on another drive, just so that makes a little more sense. I accidentally paused it and then unpaused it, so that's gonna be weird to see in there. Anyway, we're moving on to what went right. Okay, so this is a little breathy. I apologize. So there's plenty that went right. In this case, the story was interesting and kept me wanting more as we moved through each scene. That being said, the scenarios and the situations we got ourselves into were interesting and had fast and slow points to it. Sometimes I felt stuck, but other times I knew exactly what to do and where to go. So navigation in the levels was pretty straightforward and easy to get the hang of after the first few free reign levels. As I said before, the stealth needed to be a little bit tweaked. The stealth mechanic was fun, that you could choose to go quiet or go guns blazing, but I often had to end up running the guns blazing on account of placement of too many enemies in one area that sometimes never left each other. Ones that raise alarms fairly fast, causing a wave mechanic to start, and totally erase the stealth that was somewhat implemented into the game through free reign battle areas. Personally, I love stealth games. I love being all stealthy and sneaky, but I didn't get the sense that I could do that in this game. It sort of felt like they gave you that opportunity, but took it away real fast, because literally any little bit of anything that you did would end up starting a wave, and then you'd be stuck in these waves of enemies. So I also noticed that sometimes the takedowns were a little bit buggy and often made you hit the person instead of taking them down, which caused you to get caught. But when it worked, it was fun to have that element of surprise on the AI enemies. But that I feel like that should be a little bit tweaked. I'm not sure if they were just not sure what to do, because on controller here you have to press this button, which is also the melee button, if you're not exactly in the correct point of interest behind the enemy, or if the enemy turns slightly, you could mess up the trigger and end up hitting them with your gun instead, and then there goes your possibility of using stealth on the level that you were on. So moving on, the scenes were beautiful and the art and graphics rocked it, so it was never really a dull time seeing the different biomes you can traverse on these missions. As far as I can tell, we had one of each biome at least once or twice, be it water, snow, sand, city landscape, or other biomes. It was fun and kept the atmosphere fresh. As for the voice lines, this is what I'm going to be talking a little bit about the the diversity in the languages. So the voice lines for the game were played well. The voice actors were very good. I felt the emotion and I felt the connection with these characters. 100% top notch, as usual. I also enjoyed the diversity in languages as much as I enjoyed the diversity in scenarios and biomes to just keep things interesting. However, there were points that the lines were delivered a little tiny bit too fast, and it was impossible to keep up with key points to the game's story because something could be missed. Since I'm learning German, so there's a very different space of time when you're talking in a different language, because Germans can say like 3 words and it'll mean like a two line long sentence in English. So I understand that it's a little harder to figure out the pacing for that. But if it was tweaked just a tiny bit, I think that the people that didn't speak that language could read it a little faster, and they won't miss any key points in the game and in the story because of that. So the timing was decent. Could have had a tiny bit of an adjustment. I understand that one line can take over 10 tries. I've had practice in the field of voice acting since I did voice acting for a cutscene that I animated and voice lined myself during my game design master's degree in my program. But getting that right pace can save people the heartache of trying to follow the story and getting lost because they need to either speak the language that they're hearing to understand or read fast enough in their language's speed. Especially, I noticed this more with the Russian voice lines because Russians talk super fast. And it sort of reminded me of the way that German speaks, like when I'm reading German or listening to it and then I'm practicing it, it's way faster than I think it is. So some elements I actually ended up missing because the Russian voice lines were so fast and I wasn't fast enough to read it. Some of the voice lines with Farah and her companion on that mission with the missiles, trying to put the trackers on the missiles, that also had a tiny bit too fast of a pace for me to actually read and understand everything that happened. And it could end up having people miss the voice lines between the characters, miss the feel of the characters, and just end up missing pieces of the story, which may be important, especially like when the main enemy's talking and all he's doing is talking Russian through the whole cutscene, or more like 80% of the cutscene. I feel like you're gonna miss something, and I feel like I did miss something at some points. That's why most Call of Duty games I had to pay close attention and play like 1 or 2 times over to understand fully what the story is entailing. So, sorry, again, still getting over sickness. Anyway, so pacing of the story was fast and slow depending on what the mission was based around. Slower missions were more on the edge of fast, like the slower missions were on the edge of fast because they were often turned into clearing missions similar to zombies. You clear out the enemy waves. And maybe that was their goal because, you know, for someone like me that doesn't really care and doesn't really play zombies for hours on end like some people have, I'm not a big person on zombies. I'm not a big zombies fan. I never really cared for zombies much. I really only played zombies for my ex. We used to play zombies all the time, and him and his friends liked playing zombies on Call of Duty, so I played it. But I didn't really like playing zombies because I didn't feel like going just through waves of enemies. So it's not exactly my forte. It slowed down. It slowed me down in my adventure to try to achieve more of the story. And some of the elements worked well since it gave the player something to play between the story and the narrative, which sometimes the narrative was heavy on some parts of the game. So it was good to keep the game exciting for those who like that kind of play, like all of the waves of enemies and killing and everything. Obviously, I mean, it's a game about killing. You need to have a game to... You need to have stuff in the game for people to play the game. It's not a book. But, so, I mean, I get that. But it could have been... Again, I think it could have been switched a little bit, just tiny itty bitty tweaks here and there to make the game favorable for everyone. Also, one last thing for what went right in the game. Last but not least, you can pet the dog. Yes, you can pet the dog, and the dog's name is Riley. And I absolutely died and loved that. So A+ for their addition of a pettable dog, especially being the doggo Riley from Call of Duty Ghost. Alright, so this one's way more winded than I wanted it to be, but it's what happened. Also, horrible, 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 horribly spoiling content. Horribly spoiling content. Do not listen to this if you haven't played the game yet. Go get the damn game. So, what went wrong in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3? So, not a lot had gone wrong in the games beside the minor bugs and the performance dip randomly, but that was because I was running a partially stock PC and recording at the same time, as I mentioned earlier. The story was slow and fast at points, as I mentioned, but that was not what went wrong in my eyes when it came to Modern Warfare 3. This game heavily relied on its throw of information, heavy scenes, like, right off the get-go. So, in the scenes, you got information pounded on top of you. It sometimes felt overwhelming, and I had to recap at the end of each episode to verify what had just happened and what had unfolded in front of us. I ended up often getting confused as to what the real goal was. Soon it did narrow down, however, to getting Makarov, at least, so that was cleared after a bit of missions between different characters, which I did enjoy being each character at least once. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't remember if each game has done that before. I can't remember most of the games anymore. I know that Modern Warfare 2 we were able to be quite a few characters, so that was pretty cool to see the game between each character and what they thought about whatever was happening in the story. So it gave more information to the player and was fun to just see how they interact with other people in their point of view. I was a bit disappointed that there was not that much usage of the new dialogue choices. I wish my voice would stop going out. Because I need my voice to talk between characters when it was introduced. So, in Modern Warfare 2, last year, we got a peek into more backstory, and it gave life to the characters that we didn't know existed, pieces of the characters that we had no idea about, and I liked those dialogue choices, and I feel like we only got to choose a dialogue twice, maybe 3 times, maybe, in the whole game, and I sort of felt a little disappointed that we didn't really get to see a lot of that, and we didn't get too much backstory into really any of the characters that I am seeing right up to our faces. I know we got to see a little bit about something that happened in Verdansk when they were able to talk with what's his face, Makarov, and you know, pretty cool that we got to see something that happened back then, and then what it entails in today's time. So we did get a little bit of a backstory through that, but we didn't get like subtle backstories through characters interacting with each other as much as they did in Modern Warfare 2. So I feel like they should have added a little bit more stuff like that in it. So that being said though, I am disappointed in how the game fanned out at the end. Obviously because the information and the character building we had in Modern Warfare 2. Because of how the game narrowed down in the ending, a lot of the content from Modern Warfare 2 made no significance to the storyline of this current game. So it also made what happened to look too easily done, as if these characters didn't just take on a whole, you know, bullshit thing that happened with Graves and All Alone, by the way. If you get that reference, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then make it out of live. If you don't know what I am already referencing to, you're an idiot. I'm kidding, but seriously. You play as Price a few times in this game, supporting your team 1-for-1, and you guys are usually unstoppable most points. So keep that in mind. These teammates can take on a whole damn army on an island in this game. A tank that a guy is driving around and shooting at the player in the last game, and in this game, in 2023, ends up getting killed. Oh boy, I still can't. So they end up deciding to kill one of the communities and fandom favorite characters that are involved in other communities as well, not just the gaming community, such as the cosplay community and other fandoms. Again, horribly spoiler alert to the game. If you haven't played it, why are you here? You know what? I know what it is. It's payback for all the ghosts and soap art, isn't it? The AIs, the stories, huh? I knew that would bite us in the ass. Anyway, it didn't level personally with me right to, again, spoilers, kill Johnny McTavish, aka Soap, in the Call of Duty franchise. The way that they did it as well. The way they did it was, I don't think it was right to the character and to the story. It didn't sit with me at all. It was too oddly timed, and sure, it was just him and Price at the time of the mission, but that same man took on a guy in a tank in the last episode single-handedly, or the last game single-handedly, and just recently took on waves of enemies by themselves, you know, just like everyone else did. You know, you were Price, you got to do waves of enemies, you were with your team, and half the time you do a lot of work sometimes. So some of these like one-man armies going around killing all these people gets taken out like that. I don't know. I mean, I know something like this can be big talk around town, and you know, the big bang at the end of the game is to kill off characters that are a big presence in the game. When it comes to game design, I see a lot of that in a lot of games. Obviously, this gets people talking more, and talk is good because talk is publicity, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm the problem, I get that. However, killing off one of the characters that everyone loves really just royally pisses people off. And I think this is the case for a few people that I've seen online talking about it subtly with, you know, not a lot of spoilers. We can safely say that the little Fallout box at the top of the screen says everybody disliked that. If you know, you know. Sometimes the game creators obviously don't care what you think because you bought the game. You're paying for their creativity and their ideas. It's your fault for buying the game and expecting them not to kill someone because you like them. So, what are you gonna do? But the only thing that it really irks me though on is that it really didn't line up and was too rash for the time being for a war machine like Soap that took on like a lot within just 1 or 2 years, which we saw was based between 2022 and 2023. He nearly got thrown off a Chicago building, but was saved by ghost efforts and had lots of lone work. Again, if you know what I'm, you know, talking about, then you saw the last game. Lots of lone work against the shadows. And Soap in the last game was adding bits to the other characters like Ghost, Alejandro, Rudy, and Graves in some cases. There was like a dynamic going on. There was a story going on, and whoever it may be that he's talking to, taking on all these different characters and all these different scenarios, being a one-man fucking army, ends up getting killed in a few seconds with a pistol. And it's like as if these guys aren't trained killers that couldn't do hand-to-hand combat. Even with a pistol being part of the equation, I feel like there could have been way more of a struggle than there was, and it wasn't. It was sort of rushed. But because of this, I feel like it was a rash decision made quickly just to have that shock factor thrown into the game. So I feel like if that wasn't part of the story, that Soap was so carelessly killed that easily, and that something was more planned out, it would have been more satisfying. But truthfully, it just pissed me off, and made me feel like the past game really didn't even mean anything, since we're still having issues with missiles in the game. In this line right here, we did all that missiles shit in the last game, and now we're having the same issue in this game. And they just added another enemy to the mix of enemies that we already had. Having a common enemy was the theme of the game, and this time around, I guess it's the same thing again. I think that's the only reason that we ended up working with Graves. I mean, because obviously it seemed like things were set up between Graves and Makarov. There was a clip talking about a shadow friend. I did catch on that because they said that in English, so I did not miss that. So at least I did catch that piece. But in the end, we still lost a sense. We still lost in a sense because Makarov got away and Graves and Shepard lied, so they didn't really get any repercussions, and they ended up getting away with what they did. I think, or maybe Shepard didn't lie. I think Graves lied. I had to look back on that a little bit, and I think they stabbed each other in the back, per what Ghost said in one of the cutscenes. But yeah, And then they ended up getting a second win because Soap was killed randomly and couldn't fight one guy. Literally, even if it was Makarov. Like, come on. Really? And I don't know. However, I will say, though, that at least there was a small sliver of retribution because of Shepard's death. Again, spoilers! One life for another, but I still think that these guys should have been smarter with what had happened in the past back in Verdansk, in that mission when they first got Makarov. They would have known better than to actually trust Shepard, Graves, and anyone else that had, you know, in the past posed a threat to them, and they would have killed them instead of letting them go. That is, if their history made any damn sense. Would you... I hate this camera. It never focuses! Whatever. Anyway. There we go. Now it's focusing. So, they let Makarov go again, and then they did the same with Shepard. What did they think was gonna fucking happen? So, it didn't really make a lot of sense for them to allow that to happen. Anyway, it's said and done. We can't take back what happened, not like it matters anyway, because, you know, war ends in death. Even if it's quick or slow. Sadly, as far as I remember, every member of 141 has died in the past games. All the characters are dead, so expect more if they run with this title further than it already has, because, yeah. Pretty sure it's not going to be the only one. So what could have been different? So the last game gave a lot of hope for further character building and more games under the Modern Warfare title, especially because it was based in the year that the game was coming out. Modern Warfare became modern, aka in today's time. However, because they were, you know, deciding to do what they had done in this game, I have a feeling that if they go any further with this title, that slowly each 141 character will die because the people making the game want to move on to something else other than Modern Warfare titles. This is just an assumption. Again, opinions. As basically as time goes on, so does the games and development of technology. In our real world issues, we have things, you know, turning. All the stuff headed over in different countries right now, going crazy. You know, we had the thing with Russia and the Ukrainian people, and we have this thing going on in Israel right now. Like, there's a lot of shit going on in our real world right now, and as our development of technology and our real world issues change, I feel like the game will end up going in a different direction. And even if the game went in a different direction, the current one in Modern Warfare 3, no one wants to make the same piece of art over and over again. There will always be that one tree or one leaf different than the past pieces you drew. I'm talking about like hand drawings. So if you make one piece of art and you remake that other piece of art, there will always be something different in it. You are not a printer. You cannot make the same exact thing every time. And if it's the same thing, same outcome every time, it gets boring. So basing deaths in today's time means that there is no going back. And there's no development, which makes me sad to think that just as, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's had to come to an end at some point, so does Call of Duty and the characters within it. What could be different and what will be different are very different things. And I have a feeling that as the stories shift, we will be seeing more futuristic games from Call of Duty as they are, with each character slowly killing Modern Warfare's franchise and killing the modern franchise itself, pushing forward into more futuristic works that will match with our time in the real world. Now maybe I'm looking too far into it, but hey, AI was a myth back then. Now look where it's at. So you never know. So really quickly, I'm gonna make a few little pointers about the start of the story and the end of the story. So this is more my forte. I enjoy making stories. I write books on my free time, and I also am working or have worked as a narrative designer for characters and story in video games. I literally did that in my master's degree with a group and helped make a game narrative and pitched game ideas and everything. So this is based on, I guess, like an educated look into the story itself. So I have experience in this, and you know, it's just my opinion and just my outlook on the story here in Modern Warfare 3 2023. So the start of the story in the years between 2022 and 2023 was interesting and fun. The character building and storytelling was amazing, but I still am pretty upset about how easily soap became the means to an end. From the start, 141 was a force to be reckoned with. Then some random guy just comes up, one that had way less appearances in this game than Graves even did in the last game, being the enemy of 2022, and takes out one of the main characters in a few seconds. Was kind of a bullshit and cheap way in ending Modern Warfare 2023 and ending the game. Especially because it was literally right at the end. Like that is it. It was that happened, and then it went into literally the end cutscenes, and it was over. So now that we're jumping into the end of the game, let's talk about the end of the story. So the end of the story being Price killing Shepard. That was the last hurrah that we got. So I'm talking about the end of the story, the last cutscene, the last piece of it. So Price killing General Shepard gave a sliver of relief, especially required as a band-aid because of the sadistic agony delivered by the game's creators that fucking stabbed me through the heart with an ice pick, shattered it into pieces, froze it to shards, and made me as angry, dark, and cold as ghosts can be. Sergeant Soap Johnny McTavish. Jeez. That fucking thing, that sin that they did, that trespass that ruined our lives. That was Sergeant Johnny Soap McTavish's death. It was somewhat avenged, because the final blow and the ending delivered right to the fucker's doorstep, Shepard, by Captain Price himself. I feel like Captain John Price was like, eye for an eye, motherfucker, and killed the bastard. Which I'm glad that was what happened. Stop not focusing. But that being done, I understand that, as I said before, I'm pretty sure all of the 141 characters will die in the future. And that's just what happens when more people die. You could be best friends with one person, talk to them all the time, live with them on base, you know. I've had people that are in the military. I have friends in the military. I have family in the military. I have family veterans. And I play games like this, so I know how it goes. Some of this stuff is based on real life. And, you know, I play Airsoft. One teammate goes out, gets shot, he's dead. He leaves. That's just what happens. And you could be blown up, you could be shot with a sniper, you could be shot in the head with a pistol. That's just how war works. And, can't stop death from happening, especially in war. So, this does open more opportunities and possibilities for further development of a story in which the general is dead and Price is working with someone else, maybe. I'm not sure where this is going, unless that is, you know, something that they're gonna be working on is maybe align more with Price. It seemed like this game was based a little bit around Price, because I don't even remember being able to play as Price before. Because I think Price was always like a side character. Not sure. But yeah, so I'm not sure where this is exactly going. As I said before, it was just a life for a life, and that's the end. It's still hard to think about, and I'm still very fucking angry, upset, and depressed, and every other damn emotion I could be outside of numb, you know, about what had happened and what the ending was. However, as I think about it more, I know that, as I said before, if 141 is to be wiped, each character will die, and Johnny is just the beginning. All things that come to an end has a beginning, and all things must come to an end. So, I think that's where we're heading. We are heading towards Modern Warfare's end and towards 141's task force's ending in the Call of Duty franchise. So, that is all I got for you. Thank you for watching. If you stuck around this long for my spiel, congratulations, you made it to the end. And yes, I enjoyed Modern Warfare 3. I loved all of its pretty scenes, its graphics, new mechanics and playstyle, but I did not appreciate the extermination of literally one of the best and favorite characters within Modern Warfare storyline. I did not. Especially how it was played out, and as if it was such like a small, easy task, it was done. So I feel like it could have been a little more satisfying than just a simple 2-second struggle and then one of the main characters are dead. So that's it. Boop the like, subscribe button, and we'll see you in whatever I do next, because frankly, I am too angry this week to even, you know, play Call of Duty or think about it right now. I've literally been avoiding TikTok. I've been avoiding Twitter and YouTube and everything because it's been 4 days and I'm still depressed about what happened. So, yeah. I mean, as I said before, real war has death in it, and you can't have a war without death. So, I'm still angry about how fast all the damn characters in these games keep fucking dying to the to the games that these creators are making. They're just like, I don't like that one, let's just get rid of it. And they just kill them. And I did see a Twitter post from the soap actor himself. He said that he's been working with them for 20 years. 20 years of portraying the same character. I get that people love characters, they want to see them live, but you can't take someone's life away because you want them to live in a world forever. I mean, they could have just not killed him and said that he retired, but who wants to just go out being retired? You gotta go out with a bang. Quite literally. I hate that I made that fucking joke too. Anyway. Yeah. So I feel like the Call of Duty creators' plan is to literally just piss people off every release of a game that they have. Because they know that they have that fucking power just to make people angry. Jeez. Alright. Well, that's it for me. You just had to. You just had to fucking kill Soap. And then and of course it's like, I swear, I'm pretty sure they killed Soap because of all the fucking art and the AIs and the videos and the they were like, oh, you wanna fuck with our characters? Well, let's fuck with you. Yeah. So, boop the like subscribe button. I probably won't be doing a lot of Call of Duty for a little while because it literally feels like a piece of me was killed seeing that. And that's never happened in my life. I have seen characters on games die, and I have never felt this way before. It's like as if a real person has died to me. It's... yeah. Let's see in the next one. It's not gonna be Call of Duty, I can tell you that right now. Or maybe it will, who knows. But, yeah. Stay frosty.